once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Oh, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. No, not us. We've been going on how many years?
11.
Okay, that's not our anniversary. But 28 years ago today, as we are recording this, and there's a reason why we're not recording it, and for you, our beloved listeners, it doesn't matter, but we're not recording this on our normal Monday. We're recording this on Thursday, which will become apparent as we
Thursday?
Get into our freaking and geeking.
Is that what today is?
28 years ago today, Kevin Smith started shooting his first film, Clerks. A bunch of know-nothing kids got together at Quick Stop Groceries after hours and made some art that would change the lives forever and redefine who we thought we were. Closer to home, it's the 44th anniversary of Greg Ketter, a damn fine, handsome man, his first store opening, Twin Cities Comic, way back in Dalefront and Como, the place where I first bought my first comics on a habitual basis, which means I think I've been buying comics for about 44 years. So happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
It is also 20th anniversary of WrestleMania X7, which was the first WrestleMania after WCW and ECW died. Which means this was the last super huge wrestling event, because after the biggest selling WWE pay-per-view of all time was Invasion, which flopped like a flounder on the beach.
Yeah.
You go back and watch it now, you just keep thinking, wow, they screwed this up so bad.
Screwed the pooch. Yep. It was
because Vince didn't like the reaction he was getting from the WCW guys, so he just, okay, kill it.
Yep. And he just didn't. He killed the golden goose. He could have kept that storyline going for a year, but he was just too. I mean, not only was he listening to his old Whisper Boy network, but he also, the idea that ECW or WCW would ever triumph over WWF/E was so against his train of thought that he just killed it.
Yep, had everybody, had all the WCW guys and ECW guys at the Invasion pay-per-view lose, and killed off both brands. ECW came back, and the less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
But this was really, 20 years ago, was the peak of the Attitude Era. And it was Austin Rock at the Astrodome. The Astrodome, dome. So, Joe, we're going to start with some sad news. Real sad news. My friend, one of the inspirations behind this podcast, and a guy who I kind of grew to admire, Blade Braxton, who was born Troy Ferguson, passed away Sunday what day was that? I believe it was Sunday the 28th. Still no details on how he passed. Blade was the co-host of WrestleCrap Radio, who, when we started, we were going to do kind of a comic crap where we went over the worst comics, and we tried a few things before we got started and did this. But one of the things about it was there that I realized that, we could actually do this sort of thing. There were other podcasts like Comic Geek Speak and Bart Cop Radio and things that fed into it. But R.D. Reynolds, you could tell that he had pulled stuff from radio over the years to kind of create his persona. And Blade was just who he was. Blade was a guy who loved wrestling. He loved horror movies. He loved pizza, especially cheap pizza like Sbarro's and Godfather's. And everything he did, he just embraced fully. He went to wrestling shows, loved it so much, he became a manager, the Midnight Rose, put together some really outrageously silly gimmicks. And I want to talk a little about how I met him. Now, I was a fan of WrestleCrap Radio, and I would trade emails with the guys and everything. But I think it was 2016. He emailed me and said, "Hey, I'm coming up to Minneapolis to a show for some band getting back together, and they were going to be at First Avenue." And he said, "Do you want to get together and do something?" I said, "Of course." And he said, "Now, you have said that you were one of the extras in Mallrats." And I said, "Yep, the mall they filmed it at is just a few miles away." And he said, "Great, let's meet there and you could give me a tour." And then we were going to hit some thrift stores and get some pizza. And so we meet up at the Eden Prairie Mall. He, of course, was like 2-3 hours late, which I expect. And we get to the mall, and I start showing him, okay, this is the escalator. This is where
was that damn kid still playing on it?
No.
Oh, maybe he got ground up underneath.
Probably. And he asked where the food court was, and I said, "Do you see that floor there?" "Yeah, food court's under that." Now, I could have snuck him to where the old movie theater was, but we would have had to go into the current movie theater and buy tickets. So I said, it's not really worth it to buy tickets just so we could sneak in and see where the old movie theater was, because they didn't tear it down. They didn't do anything. They just put a wall in front of it. But if you go through behind all the stores, there it is. But the problem was when we went to where the new food court was, he saw there was a Sbarro's. And Joe, you know how much I love Punch Pizza, which is right across the street.
Yeah.
I said, "We're going to go to Punch Pizza. You're going to love it." Nope. He saw Sbarro's. And it was over. We had to eat at Sbarro's. He had to get a real New York slice. And he lived that gimmick. And he had already hit a couple of thrift stores, was ready to go home, and we were talking about Prince, and I said, "Well, Paisley Park's just, 10 miles that way." "Really?" "Yeah, and they do tours." "Really?" And the joy in his face was like a 7-year-old who'd been told there are 2 Christmases. Anything he talked about that he was interested in, he would just light up. He loved what he loved with his whole being. And we still would, when you go to his Facebook page, you're going to see a lot of people, "Oh, I just chatted with him on Facebook a little bit ago," or "I was going to go see Kiss with him in a few months." The guy was just gregarious. Everybody was his best friend. He loved everybody. The last time I had messaged him was about 2 weeks ago, because I'm covering stuff for PW Insider WrestleMania week next week. And one of the things I am covering, I swear I am not making this up, it's a wrestling pay-per-view called simply Hot Girl Shit.
It sounds like they figured out your wheelhouse.
And I emailed him and said, "Hey, for PW Insider next week, I'm covering Hot Girl Shit. I expect we're going to get classics like Flair Steamboat, or Steamboat, or Steamboat Savage Steamboat, or Okada Omega. This is going to be a Matt classic put together by Vern Gagne and Billy Robbins." And I was trying to convince him to buy the show so that he and I could do an audio of it. And if they didn't want it on PW Insider, we could do it as a podcast, because I imagine he and I talking about a pay-per-view called Hot Girl Shit. I mean, it's money in the bank. License to print money, as they would say on WrestleCrap.
Right there. Money in the bank.
But Sunday, about halfway through the day, I was working a shift at the group home, and Artie Reynolds posted that he'd passed. And I'm still in a state of shock. Still can't believe it. He was, I think, 46 or 47. It's a great loss to so many people. He loved horror movies. He loved bad horror movies. He loved trauma horror movies. So he got involved in making them. He became an actor in them. Went over to Cannes Film Festival. Went over to London to make these movies. Loved wrestling. So he got involved as a manager. Never any wrestling training. Just got involved as a manager and learned it by working with the guys. WrestleCrap Radio. They've done 300 and some episodes. They were all available for download. I'm just gutted. Blade was a hell of a guy, and he showed that, the stuff you love, just love it. Who cares what other people think? Just embrace it with everything and just love it. And this is another loss that's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. And there we go. That's my friend, Blade Braxton.
But that's not the only bad news coming through for us. And this actually isn't our bad news, but if you're a comic retailer, there was some hell of a news dropped. When did this drop? Was it a week ago or?
Yep, almost exactly a week ago.
Tell them about it, Strode.
They announced, let's see what the day was. It was March 25th at 12:41 p.m. Is that the day that it hit? I'm looking here. No, it was 3:25 at 12 p.m. That's when the Beat posted that huge industry-changing news. Marvel and Penguin Random House have signed an exclusive multi-year agreement for them to distribute Marvel comics and graphic novels to the direct market. The deal starts in October. Comic shops will still be able to order comics and graphic novels from Diamond as a wholesaler. And Hachette remains Marvel's Marvel distributor to bookstops for graphic novels and collections. Rumors had swirled for years that Penguin Random House was thinking of getting into the comics periodical distribution business. And Heidi says about a year ago, heard that Marvel was looking for an alternative distribution source during the Diamond shutdown, much like DC did, because Diamond shut down and did not tell any of their partners. They just said, we're shutting down, after DC had announced that their printer had shut down due to COVID. And then Diamond, that same week, said that they were going to shut down, and I think they were closed for either 6 or 8 weeks. And there were a lot of small publishers who were in a lot of trouble because they needed that money from Diamond. There were a lot of comic shops who were into Diamond for a lot of money, and they weren't going to be getting any product. Marvel was still releasing stuff, and they released everything digitally that they would have released normally the next week. But then after that, they just created digital-only comics that were reprints of things until Diamond got up and running again. But I guess that both Marvel and DC were very unhappy about that, the pause that Diamond did. Marvel put out a long press release. They highlighted that free freight for all comic shops ordering through Penguin Random House. And when you create your account with Penguin Random House, you have access to everything in Penguin Random House's catalog, which is huge. They're 2 of the 5 big publishers. They merged a few years ago. And Joe, if you want, I can dig into how the book business changed in 2008, but that would be later on. We'll talk about that. Diamond has been scrambling to deal with this. But here's the thing. Comic shops can still order comics through Diamond, even after the October deadline. The one thing that I've heard is that through Penguin Random House, it's kind of a flat 50%. And super big people, super big shops that order a lot may get more. But smaller shops that have been paying 35% plus shipping, getting a 35% discount and having to pay shipping, they could go direct through Penguin Random House, 50% discount, free shipping. And Joe, you said you have talked to some retailers. And I first would imagine the first thing they're like is, what the hell? And the retailers I've been reading online are saying that now I have to go through 3.
No, it's more like they're all like, fuck. And the long-term guys are, fuck, not again. Because as we've talked about, it's going to triple their cost now, because now they got to get DC through one person, Marvel through another, and everything else through Diamond, assuming nobody else bolts. And while the good news is free shipping and access to other things, I'm still not convinced what the terms are. You said what, 50?
Yeah. That's what it says in the press release. That the terms for comic shops will be 50%.
Is that non-returnable?
Let's see. Yes.
Okay. Now, if they choose to go,
found where it said Penguin Random House is offering a standard 50% off discount with free included for stores in the U.S. and Canada, an improvement in pricing for a substantial percentage of retailers, and a simple price to understand, although the company said promotional terms and other benefits may be available, which means they may have those deals where if you order 75% of this for this book, we're going to give you an extra 3%. Those
or maybe some special stuff, depending on what Marvel coughs up. The other question, though, is are you able to tap in returnable? Probably not comic-wise or anything Marvel-wise, but if you are able to set up a returnable and tap into all the other fun stuff that Penguin has, again, I'm looking more positive at that, because for a brief while, we actually had when I had Hot Comics, I had a book distributor that I dealt with until it became clear I was going to sell off or close Hot Comics, and I closed it off. But there, everything was returnable. I never returned anything because I didn't order crazy quantities. The goal would be like, hey, if I'm going to order, I don't know, there's a Sonic Disruptor movie coming out. Let's get Sonic Disruptors. I'm just picking on Barry Crane's unfinished DC miniseries. We've got to mention every comic book ever published somehow.
Joe, you don't need to mention that, because I actually interviewed Mike Barron about that and why it was canceled and why he never finished it. And it was because he was just making it up as he went. He had no idea where he was going with it.
He can go back and look that up. But say you wanted to get the Sonic Disruptors comic book because suddenly there's a Sonic Disruptor $400 million deal on Netflix. Boy, that'd cut you up, wouldn't it? Anyways, you could buy 20 of these and then return 19 of them if you didn't sell any. So again, I don't know what the terms are. I suspect you'll be able to tap into both. And as time goes on, we'll do for a geeking session. We'll talk to some of the dealers around town and see what they think, what their terms are. So far, most of them are just rolling their eyes, because basically what you're done is, although you didn't increase the cost, the biggest cost is shipping. You've just tripled down on their time. So now they've got to do a whole batch of new work to get the same returns. For some places, like Cory says, if you were a smaller shop only getting 35%, this may be a big game changer for you. Maybe not, because I still think what's selling best in the market today? Marvel Comics?
Oh,
still?
Yeah.
So, again, what's curious, though, is if and how this will affect Diamond. Because if Diamond goes, that's a lot of publishers down the drain.
And shops.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking even big boys like Image, although I would imagine they'd survive. Dark Horse, all the
Dark Horse.
little.
Now, here's the thing with both Image, Dark Horse, and IDW. They have signed agreements to distribute to bookstores. Everybody is kind of moving away from Diamond distributing to bookstores, and I would be very curious to see. I know Diamond used to be the graphic novel distributor to Amazon, but I have not read that they are still that, because that's one of those things that Diamond would put in their press releases and stuff. And we supply Amazon with all graphic novels. They're not saying that anymore. One thing in the press release is that Hatchet, Hatchettt, not Hatchet as in Hatchet Man, will still be distributing Marvel's graphic novels to bookstores. The only reason for that is that the contract they have with Hatchet goes a couple more years. And everybody involved fully expects that when that contract is up, that will go under Penguin Random House as well. Here's the difference between that and what DC did with their two distributors and what Marvel did with Heroes World. Comic shops are a drop in the bucket to Penguin Random House. Yes, they want to get in that market. But according to ICV2, how many shops are there? Because they have an article. 10% of shops that started in 2020 no longer exist. So that probably puts us around 2,700 shops. Penguin Random House distributes to that many bookstores just for Walmart, not counting Barnes & Noble, local bookstores, local book chains, smaller book chains, etc., 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 etc. Penguin Random House is huge. They already have a distribution network set up. It's not going to be like Heroes World where you're taking a really small distributor and making them size up to a national one. This is a national distributor who's probably going to add about 2,500 more accounts. The other thing is you can still get your comics through Diamond. You can still get your Marvel books through Diamond. Diamond will still be a wholesaler, but Diamond will be the wholesaler, not the distributor, which is a legal technicality. But if you want to still order if you're a shop, you can still order your Marvel books through Diamond. Your terms won't be as good and you'll still be paying shipping. And I remember looking at your invoices and the shipping just boggled my mind, because I'd worked at Schindler's where we had, magazine distributors and book distributors. They never charged shipping. And the magazine distributors, we were getting, bundles and bundles and bundles of stuff. They actually had their own trucks at times, and they would just go and drop it off. And I guess it might have been involved in their cost of doing business, but they never charged shipping, even when they had their own fleet of trucks to do the shipping.
And the shipping was something that we had to
do it.
Shipping was something we had to suck up when Cap closed, because for the longest time, everybody in the Twin Cities just went to Cap and picked up their books free of charge. And then when the whole exclusivity war in the 90s broke loose, Cap was suddenly had to close the warehouse, and now they're charging shipping, and Diamond was charging shipping. I mean, that's why a lot of people didn't even buy it from Diamond to begin with, because it was like, well, you're charging us shipping. Why don't you set up a warehouse here so we can pick up? And they wouldn't do that because Schindler's would never sign on with, because they had a sweetheart deal with, not a sweetheart behind the scenes deal, but they had a good thing going with Cap City. They just pull their truck up, pick up half the warehouse because the other half was everybody else. And
Schindler's also was the baseball card supplier for Cap City. I don't know if people knew a lot about that, but there was a time when in the Cap City, their monthly catalog, Advanced Comics, you could see, I could get just the Twins cards for Topps, or just the Milwaukee Brewers cards for Topps, or this, or I could, get, a complete set, or et cetera, et cetera. Schindler's was the one that got all those baseball cards. They would do the sorting for the sets, but they would also sell pallets of just boxes of baseball cards, the sealed pallet. That was where Cap City would get all their baseball cards and sports cards, which is why as things fell apart with the sports cards, Cap City, if you notice, when the market crashed on sports cards, Cap City just kind of went down to just selling boxes because Schindler's was like, yeah, it's not worth our time to make these for you anymore. So Diamond, if I said three things when this occurred. First was, if you're a comic shop, congratulations, you're now an independent bookstore.
Yeah. Which isn't as bad as you would think, because there are tons of books and internet articles on how to run as a bookstore versus what you've been kind of doing now, a newsstand market, which is an obsolete business model.
There are also trade organizations that you can join. There are also independent bookstore grants that you would now qualify for. There are different associations. If you're a comic shop, you need to look into all three of those things. You need to get into the trade organization. You need to get into the associations. That fee to join those is more than made up with how you can use advertising and how you can use networking and how they will point you toward grants and other ways that you can get money just because you're an independent bookstore. And there are organizations and publishers that want to keep independent bookstores in print going. Number two, if you are a small press publisher, you need to call Diamond right now and renegotiate your terms. And I had somebody say to me, well, if you've already got a contract, you can always renegotiate a contract. You can renegotiate a contract the week after you sign it. You can always go back and go, things have changed. The business model that you had is now different, or the conditions of the market are different, or the deal is different. I'm not saying break your contract, but you can always renegotiate a contract. I will go back to the stuff I know, which is wrestling. In WWE, there was a point where Steve Austin was the $1 million champion. And his job was what they called a carpenter. He was to be kind of the mid-card guy that you beat on your way up to the upper level. He would beat the jobbers, but he wouldn't beat the big stars. Well, all of a sudden, Steve Austin becomes the big star. It took a while, but he just shot up the card to the point where by 1996, everybody on the planet knew who Steve Austin was. And you would go anywhere and there were Austin 316 signs. And he has talked about how, once his merch started selling, he went to Vince and he said, hey, Vince, we need to talk. Because my downside guarantee, I'm the one putting butts in seats. You're going to need to pay me more. And if you're a small publisher, you should go to Diamond and go, look, with Marvel leaving, I am concerned about my business future. I need terms that are more favorable to me. Will Diamond say no? They might. But whenever there's business flux, you need to re-examine and renegotiate your position. And then
just go to Kickstarter. There's so many people now just that are Kickstarter only. You will even wonder if they'll even have their comic book or books in a real store anymore.
And the last thing is, if you are a comic fan, it's going to get more complicated to order your comics. DC's not going to be even put, how DC put out the poster with all this stuff coming out? Yeah, that's done. Will Marvel still be in the Diamond catalog or have their thing in the Diamond catalog? Well, no, they're not Diamond exclusive anymore. They have their own their own publisher. So ordering comics as a fan is going to get more complicated, but it's also going to be more necessary for your shop to know, because like Joe said, their workload doubled last year. It's now going to go up by 33 1/3%. Although I would say more by half, because Marvel's probably half their sales. So if you want to make sure you're getting what you want, you're going to need to pre-order it, because shops always are conservative. They're always scared. They would rather miss a sale on a comic than have a comic sitting on the shelf. Because that comic sitting on the shelf, they paid money for, and they're not getting any money for it. Mark Evanier tells the story constantly where he would ask shop owners about Gru. They wouldn't know who he was. They would go, oh yeah, we had 7 on the shelf last month, and we were lucky to sell all 7, so we're cutting back to 5 on the shelf. Do good shops do that? No. Are most shops good? No. So lots of stuff being shook up in the comic industry, and one thing is clear, that book distributors see this as a way to go for one reason and one reason alone. Joe, what do I always say about publicly held companies?
Oh, they don't care about comics. They just want to make money.
They need to show more profit this quarter than last quarter.
Yep.
All that matters. If they go in and they show less profit than last quarter, they don't care what you did. They don't care that you're positioning for the future. You didn't make as much money as you did last quarter, and you didn't make as much money as you did this year. I'm selling the stock. WWE sold the WWE Network to Peacock for $500 million. However, last year, the first quarter was the last quarter where, they had house shows and live events and stuff. Well, this year they don't have it. So last year, year to year, WWE is down because the Peacock deal hadn't taken effect yet. Quarter to quarter, WWE is down. What happened to the stock? Went down by about 20%. Your stock goes down, board of directors, now not in WWE's case, but in other cases, they'll look at that CEO and go, do we want to keep him? It's when you're a publicly held company, they just need to show more profit, or have an explanation as to why. One of the scariest things in the world, if you're in a company that's not doing all that great, is the week before they announce earnings, because if the earnings aren't good, they're going to cut people so that they could go into that earnings call and go, well, we've eliminated costs.
But you know where most of these comics are going to end up?
I would imagine that not as many will show up, but there are comics that show up in dollar bins.
Yep.
They used to be quarter bins. Now they're dollar bins.
Now they're dollar, at least $1. Because over the weekend, one of the guys who has popped up occasionally, Most Wanted Comics, had a mega comic book sale in St. Louis Park. And although Cory and I couldn't coordinate, he went one day, I went another. And I got to tell you, how did you say, Cory? It was basically kind of a 90s graveyard of comics.
Oh, yeah. Now,
Not saying it was bad stuff.
No.
Okay.
I went there Saturday afternoon, and I was expecting the place to be just jam-packed, because I haven't been to one of these in 5 years. I went, and it was a dance studio in kind of a little warehouse district in one of the Minneapolis suburbs.
Now, Cory, do you remember the room you went in?
Yes.
And then you took a right? That room was the sale I went to a couple years ago. That was where everything was. Now, I suppose because of social distancing, they go into the actual more like a gymnasium type thing. It was a lot wider.
Yeah, that was the dance studio.
So everything's more spread out. There's very little crowding. I went Sunday. I got there about 10 o'clock, a little after 10. And again, I was like one of there was only 2 customers in there before me. And I think at the most there might have been 8. I'd be real curious what Friday would have been like. I'm always curious because what I like going on Sundays. First of all, I'm there to basically clean up. I'm there for 2 reasons. I'm looking for things to put on the eBays, or things for myself that I've never read, or things that I just have to fill, or even some things I just buy because I want to reread them. And that's what I thought. Maybe we could close the. It's funny because some of the comics were from closed stores. I guess what these guys do is they go around and they buy up comic collections. They have a wall full of higher priced books, even a small wall where there was nothing discounted. And then everything else is $1. They had some books that were $2, like the what do you call them, the deluxe Baxter format, if that's not dating me. They had some half-price graphic novels, and then some half-price sets, as well as some half-price higher buck books. And as Cory, as you were going through, first of all, how much did you spend?
I actually only spent $50.
Okay, I hit 300, so that gives you an idea. I'm
but
a lot.
It was a grocery bag full of comics.
And I did a long box.
Not small, but one of the the grocery bags you get at like a Cub Foods or a Target.
Yeah, you can
with
lay
the
them flat
on the side.
So what kind of things did you pick up?
I mostly would try to put together, if there was a mini series that I hadn't read, I would try to put those together. I got a few, and first, there was no organization at all other than on one against a small wall and the main wall were boxes where nothing was bagged and boarded. Those were mostly older comics. Then there was a row, again on a smaller wall, of bagged and boarded comics, and those were mostly from within the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and they had comic store stickers.
They announced, we've got graphic novels. They only had 4 boxes of graphic novels.
Yeah.
So I didn't bother digging through the recent stuff. Didn't even bother because
I dug through it all.
And it's okay, whatever. And they were kind of in alphabetical order by company, but
not really.
That's all, I can read that on DC, Universe, and Marvel Unlimited. So I went through. I mostly got miniseries where I could find every issue. 70s books. They had a lot of reprints that I already have, but 70s books that I didn't have, like Gunsmoke Kid, the Ringo Kid. I got a few Ringo Kid. I got some Outlaw Kid. I got some Rawhide Kid. Lots of kids. Marvel really liked, their westerns to be enough.
That's kind of funny because I found out Gunsmoke #1 for $1. I mean, the thing price is about $30. So it was kind of weird to find that.
Got a whole bunch of Sergeant Fury. And Sergeant Fury in the 70s, they would have like a new issue and then a reprint, a new issue and then a reprint, and then they finally went all reprint. And I haven't read a lot of Sergeant Fury. I think the first 20 issues were reprinted in Essential. And that's really about all I've read because Kirby was only on the book I don't even think he was on the book for 10 issues. And I've just, I read the Kirby stuff, and then afterward is Dick Ayers, and it's kind of for DC, I picked up all of the, they don't call their horror comics, they were mystery comics, and as long as they weren't beat to shit, I bought those. And then, just stuff here and there. But as I'm going through, so much 90s X-Men, so much 90s Superman, there were boxes and boxes and boxes of 90s X-Men and 90s Superman. And I remember, Superman I can understand because it went way up really fast and then it went way down really fast and people didn't catch up with it going way down. But X-Men was one of those that you kind of think is an evergreen. People are always going to want to fill in their X-Men run. Nope.
Well,
None of the
X-Men
high-volume
branched
X-Men,
into like 5,000 copies, 5,000 titles. Even we mocked it. Like, how many more X-Men titles can you get?
but if you wanted Fatal Attractions, that crossover with the shiny covers, they were there.
Yeah.
If you wanted the Wolverine 50, which I think at one point was a high dollar book, it was there. I really, the only X-Men I didn't see were the ones that are really high dollar X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
But man, if you wanted X-Men from the 90s up until Age of Apocalypse, you could have got that run $1 each for all of them.
See, as I went through it, I went through the high price books first because they were all half price. And I actually ended up buying one that's not, that they weren't discounting just because, well, I'll talk about that when I get to it. I started going through the Image books because they had a bunch of Image, and it just struck me, all these Image titles that I have no clue what they're about because they just spit them out, they publish whatever they can, and then they just disappear. A lot of times I would fire up on my phone Atomic Avenue just to see, am I getting a complete run or am I not? Sometimes I would just pick it up because the title looked interesting. And sometimes I would, like you did, try to put the miniseries together. I spent a lot of time going through the Image books one at a time. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be here all day because I was really looking, because, so like you'd find like, okay, here's 1, 2, and 3, and then a later box. Oh, here's 4, 5, and 6. Now where the hell did 1, 2, and 3 go? Now, since they weren't in any order, what I would do, so I take those 1, 2, and 3, and if I thought I would buy them, I would stick them in the front of that box because it didn't matter. There was no order. And then later on, if I wanted, I'd know, okay, they're in the Image box. I just have to find them. So I managed to put together a few runs like that. When I got to the Marvels, I flipped through them pretty fast. I don't think I got hardly any Marvels. I spent more time in the kids' books. I found some Christmas covers that I liked. DC, I spent some time in the $2 books where I picked up like Cosmic
Odyssey. Out about the kids' books, again, very 90s, it were the Disney comics that Disney published. They had some Gladstone, they had some Archie, but it was mostly that when Disney had their comic company. And
only about 2-3 boxes. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, but still, for the kids' books, I would say that was 75% of the kids' books. And I've never seen that many of the Disney comics.
And I'd be real tempted. I was tempted to buy a lot of those because those go really well on eBay, but I decided to hold back on those. Like I said, I picked a few out that looked like they were interesting reading. When I went to the $2 books, I picked up things like Cosmic Odyssey. I picked up Superboy Legion, a couple other miniseries. The one I balked on, there was a Trinity. I think it was like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. I couldn't remember which issue I was missing. They had all 4 of them, but I only needed one, and even at $2 a pop. At $1 a pop, I probably would have bought them just because. But at 2, I was like, that's $8. All I'm missing is one issue. And then of course, hours later, I realized I was missing 4.
Was that Trinity by Matt Wagner, which was the
No idea.
Format?
No idea.
Was it the Trinity, which was the regular comic?
These were the $2 Baxter books.
Okay.
So
yeah, there were only 3 issues of that.
Well, there's 4 of the one I was looking at. Maybe it wasn't called Trinity. All I know, it had Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, and for some reason I got 1, 2,
that might have been the one by Chris Claremont.
3 issues of 3.
Okay.
And I never got an issue 4. So whoever was pulling my comics back then, to you. So, but here's a small pile of things that I did pick up. I picked up the Marvel Premiere Doctor Who. They had 58, 59, 60. I know I've got a lot of Doctor Who, but for some reason, I bought these originally when they first came out because it was a big deal. It's like, oh, this is the first American Doctor Who comic, even though I've been buying the British one for some time. So those were kind of fun to pick up. Sometimes I'd run across something fun like in the independent books. The Return of Happy the Clown, which is a Caliber title by one of the guys online I followed. I can't think of his name. Troy Boyle, I think his name is. And let me find this up here. Fire up the old Kray 3000. I just remember he said this was like one of his only comic series. If I could spell the word. Troy David Boyle. That's who it was. He wrote it. And if I think I have it, Cory, I'll let you read it, see what you think of it. Sometimes you run into titles that you're like, what the F? Well, this one happened to be called Holy Effed. All New Adventures of the Unholy Trinity in Los Angeles. Warning, congratulations, you're holding a book full of cursing, nudity, and filth. Stay alert.
The world needs more alerts.
Sometimes I ran up into books that I know are miniseries, and they sound intriguing, but for a buck, I'll try it. I picked up the Twilight Zone Shadow #1, which is a 4-issue series from Dynamite. And I really dig Twilight Zone. And I think I mentioned last time I'd been trying to pick up masks. Couldn't find any masks. I did find more Masquerade, though. And so I picked up that, and I'll read the first issue, and if I like it, I'll go hunt down the other 3. I found a couple 80-page giants, just the new ones from 2000. Robin, Nightwing. So I figured that, again, thick books for a buck reading. I picked up one from local creator Lance Ward, One Day in 1978. Just his own personal self-published. Other than that, a lot of stuff I picked up, I just picked up, runs of Domino Lady, which was weird because I found one issue that was priced like $100. I bought it for $1, and online it's going for $100. Mine's not in mint shape, but so as I read through this stuff, it'll go through the same filtering process I usually do. Buy it, read it, keep it, sell it. What was the one guy? Oh, Joe Frankenstein. Remember that series?
Oh, yes, which may come back because the creator actually posted a picture of it and said, he's starting to stir.
Well, cool, because I found a set in the set box, and having never read it, I sold tons of them, but I never read it. I picked it up, so I picked that up. Again, the box of what I've picked up is in the other room. I'm not going to go get it and regale you with stuff, but no, it was fun. I had a fun time. Like I said, when I got to the Marvel DC, I tend to flip through a little quicker because it'd have to be really interesting for me to see it. I think I found an issue of Not Brand Ek. It was like a one-shot, not the classic stuff, but like a newer one. It had like the return of Four Bushman or the end of Four Bushman. It's like, I don't recall reading this, but for a one-shot and $1, I'll read it. So, but like I said, I dropped $300. One of the books I picked up was a Power Girl #1, which is a Adam Hughes cover where she's pulling her shirt off, showing her considerable, huge trucks of land. This one was signed by Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti. So I figured, what the heck? I don't have their signatures. I have them now. And if
I got Trap Man signed by Paul Fricke.
I saw another one of those. And I don't know what you were looking. I found plenty of Deathmate Red. And I was able to put together one set. I will try again to read it. Because somebody online was like, oh, that was a good series. I enjoyed it. And it's like, as far as I remember, it was incomprehensible nonsense. Not that we didn't know who the Valiant people were, but we had no idea who the Image people were. And it was the first appearance of like Gen 13. We had no idea who they were to begin with.
I tried, and the Valiant ones are boring but readable. The Image ones gave me a headache.
And the prologue is actually...
Because I'm trying to figure out, and I've said this a lot, but this was at its worst. You would look at a page and go, I don't know where my eyes are supposed to go next. I don't know what the next panel is, because there would be, here's this big image, and then they would just kind of throw panels on the page. And if you would, you think, you read, what is it, Easy Reader said?
Top to bottom, left to right.
Top to bottom, left to right. Reading stuff is out of sight. No, that's not the way the panels went. It was like a Gene Colan page where Gene Colan would give you arrows. These guys didn't give you arrows. And you would try to read by the word balloons, and by the third balloon, it's like, this is just word salad.
And it started out, the prologue was actually very exciting because it's basically Solar and Void, two of the like cosmic entities of both universes, bump into each other and fall in love. And as they kiss, that's what made the Deathmate universe. Cosmic making out. And I think that's what ended it, is them breaking apart. But yeah, it was, well, all I know is I remember I sold out of the Valiant stuff. The Image stuff I sold well, but I ended up returning some of it. And the Red, I sold enough to pay for it, but then when they got a chance, I returned a bunch, keeping a few. For a while, that was the only one that was hot because no one could find it. And Black, because it was the first appearance of Gen 13. But like I said, they're not like Gen 13. It's like if you were trying to read Amalgam and you had no idea who Marvel or DC characters were. It doesn't mean anything. And that's, I think, the number one failure of it is we did not know who the Image characters were. Why would we care if we're seeing a different version of them? So, but I got a set. I'm going to pump my stomach and then go try to reread it. And I'm sure I'll talk about it in a future date. If not, I'll just put it on the old eBays.
You know who doesn't put stuff on the eBays?
You, for one.
True. And these guys, our sponsors. Believe it or not, kids, this here podcast has sponsors. And that sponsor, since day one, is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best, bar none, web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a website, head on over to DreamHost.com, put in code KRAYZ, that's K-R-A-Y-Z, and get $20 off your first year. Now, if you would like to advertise here on any of the Solitaire Rose Network podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject advertising. Also, head on over to eBay and look for user KRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z. That's Joe Crazy Writer, who's always telling us about the eBay in every episode of Crazy Comics and Stories. If you would like to contact us, you can do so. You can give us a call at 952-856-0519. Leave a message and we'll play it on the show. Or you can send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And I keep busy.
Busy.
We had a new episode of AEW Dynamite, and while a lot of people are saying they didn't like it, there was one thing in the show I liked. The main event was an arcade battle royal. No, it was arcade something, like Arcade Madness or something, and they put video games around the ring. And the wrestlers used the video games to beat each other up, including having a prize table where you would spend tickets for stuff. Barbed wire was 15,000 tickets. A folding chair was 20,000 tickets. People got beat up with a whack-a-mole. Somebody got a Mortal Kombat machine thrown at them. Somebody got put through an air hockey table, which really just looked like they'd painted air hockey onto one of the regular wrestling tables that people go through. But I don't just talk comics and wrestling. I talk about all this stuff. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is currently on a pause, basically because COVID-19 has made it so that I have to work a lot of extra hours at both jobs. But you can still go and listen to my other podcasts. Now, you're probably listening to Crazy Comics and Stories, which is the main podcast. But on this same feed, KRAYZ, COMIX, is Solitaire Rose Radio, the solo radio podcast that I do. I've done interviews, I've done short stories, I've done all sorts of things, and you can get to it right here on this same feed. I also do a podcast called Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's over at novels.solitairerose.com. Dangerous Dan Moore and I, and of course Wolfie B. Bad, give you bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. You send in your questions, and we give you the aforementioned bad advice. And then myself and Adam Vermillion from For the Love of Comics do the Fantastic Forecast at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com, where we go through the issues of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time, to give the plot and commentary on each issue. That's not all. Yes, I'm crazy. I still, over at pwinsiderelite.com, every week on Wednesday, do a recap of the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. I write up what happened, and then myself and Anthony Pyrus will do an audio. Now, you can only listen to the audio if you remember at pwinsiderelite.com, and if you're a wrestling fan, you should be, where we then break down the episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a grade, and let you know if you should have watched that episode. Those are the other podcasts here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network. Thanks. And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he goes back in time to his old Skype handle and pushes us to visit his Friendster page. No, it's Joe. What's going on the eBays?
Oh, there's always stuff going on the eBays. Like I said, I got a whole bunch of stuff that I've as I'm reading through it, if it doesn't make my cut, it's just going from the dollar bin and onto the eBays. Some of the stuff I've sold. If you remember Major X, that was the 2019 series Rob Liefeld did, that for some reason got super hot because I guess there was like major appearances and everybody got super excited about it. Did not make the cut, so I put her on the old eBays. Cory, do you remember Count Duckula?
Why, yes, I do. Now, here's the thing. Was Count Duckula a spin-off of Danger Mouse?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Because what's weird is it became a Marvel comic book in 1989.
Yeah, and Danger Mouse never did.
Nope. Although, what was the first appearance of Danger Mouse? And it was in one of the Count Duckulas. Does the Strode.
Oh, no, I didn't read Count Duckula.
Okay, well, number 3, which I happen to have, and it goes anywhere from $10.99 to $100. So you be the judge of how much it's worth. I had my first appearance, and I sold it. The only one I have left in my collection is a photo cover of number 8, where it has Geraldo Rivera on it with Count Duckula. And oddly enough, this one sells crazily, anywhere from $40 to $125. My goal is to someday to get him to autograph it, which apparently would not be as tough as I think. All I got to do is go up and knock on his door and maybe offer him $100. So I had the Count Duckula. Speaking of, how would you say, Baxter series or deluxe format? I don't know what they're called now. Remember Justice Inc., Cory, from 1989?
Yes, the two-part series with Kyle Baker, Andy Heffler, using the Avenger, which was a pulp character created by the creator of Doc Savage, Kenneth Dent, Leonard Robinson.
Yep. And apparently there was a Justice Inc. series back in the 70s too, so don't get the two confused. But this was just a 2-parter. Could not tell you if it was any good because I read it and sold it. I also had a couple of copies of Charlie's Angels, Bionic Woman. This was from Dynamic Forces, a couple of variant covers. Of course, this is just basically a square off of 2 of the, I don't know if you'd say iconic, but were some of the better known 70s series. I remember having, I might have beefed about this on Freaking a while back, where somebody was, carping about, wow, why are you talking about Babylon 5 Star Trek crossover? They're 2 different properties. I said, yeah, but if it wasn't for legalese and people maximizing corporate profits, we might have a crossover between Babylon 5 and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Well, only in the comic realm will you see things like this. Charlie's Angels, Bionic Woman, even though it would be kind of a fun series if they could ever Netflix it up.
But Star Trek X-Men.
It's happened in the comics. I'm just saying.
The novels.
You're spending $400 million for other properties. This one might be worth doing. Not everybody's alive from it, but it's again worth a shot. I never say her name right. Deja Thoris Had a mini-series, that's from Warlord of Mars, John Carter, had a series called, Her and the White Apes of Mars. It's where she takes an archaeological field trip to unearth the dark secrets of the ancient battle site beneath the fabled Face of Mars formation. Without John Carter or anybody else, it was just her. She's called upon all her nerve, cleverness, and endurance in a relentless chase and horrifying bloodbath. A couple variant covers, again, from Dynamite. Only 4 issues in a book, so you can go dig it out yourself if you want. Cory, did you ever read Wolverine First Class when it came out in 2008?
Yes, I actually really liked that one.
Yep, this was a series that brought us back to the early days of the all-new, all-different X-Men, with solo adventures of Wolverine and Kitty Pryde. The next generation of students, they arrived at Xavier's school, Colossus, Storm, Nightcrawler, and the mysterious Wolverine. And of course, when Professor X pairs up the green recruit Kitty Pryde, well, there you go. There were, 21 issues, and I had a couple scant ones. Peter David wrote a bunch of them from about 13 up, so that would be fun. And Fred Van Lente, various artists. So 5 books. Might even be on Marvel Unlimited. So there, you got your homework assignment. Soul Saga was one from 2000. This came from Image/Top Cow. Stephen Platt, Christian Lichner, they actually own it. And it's kind of a myth and science put together in tales of adventure, war, love, and duty. Lots of big boobies in it, of course, because, that was par for the course around that time. I found it unreadable, but maybe somebody out there who read the 5 issues could tell me otherwise. We're always game for reviews if you want to come in and say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. Here's why Soul Saga was great. Couple oddball things sold off. I had in 2017 in General Mills cereals, you could get a Justice League comic. There were 4 of them. I managed to get the set together and never opened it and never cared to. So I just put them all together, sold them as a box. Now, if you were going to Toys R Us back in 1997, you might have scored this. There was a 3 Batman comic reprint set. Detectives 38, which was, what was that, Cory?
Detective 38 was the first Robin.
How about Detective 359?
That was the second Robin.
Nope, first Batgirl. How about Batman 121?
That I don't know.
That was, I don't think it was the original Mr. Freeze, but it was his origin and quite possibly a new look. Anyways, I had this Toys R Us Batman set. It was originally in a baggie. These were open. Just kind of fun things to read. It wasn't the entire issue. It was just a replica edition featuring Robin, Batgirl, and Mr. Freeze. That had the 97. That wasn't Batman and Robin Rides Forever, was it? The movie?
Which one?
The last one Schumacher did.
That was Batman and Robin was the last one Schumacher did. He did Batman, Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin. Let's see, when did that come out? 1997, so that's probably why Toys R Us had this 3-pack to give away. I've got, like I said, I've been putting stuff up on eBay's almost all day today. And anytime I got some day off, I put it up. So you know what to do. KRAYZ. Let me know you're a listener of the show, and I always like to toss in a couple extra things. And as I always say, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I go out and beg for candy. Easter.
I thought maybe this is where you drew in all the Batman eyes and all those Silver Age comics you collected.
No, I go to the craft store and I get the googly eyes you can stick on things.
Oh, like all those classic statues all around town.
Yeah. No, it's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Well, as I mentioned before, I did finally get my vaccination. I had been up a number of times to get it, but they were always for April. Well, they're allowing now MAC employees, that's Metropolitan Airport Commission employees, to get vaccinated. And I signed up and I went in and I got the Johnson & Johnson one, which is nice because it's a one-shotter. And it takes about a month, I guess, for the vaccination. I think any of the vaccinations to get their full effect, just like, if you get a flu shot or whatever. So I've been vaccinated. I've had very mild symptoms. That's why I'm home today, Thursday, while we're recording, because while we had a cluster of a beginning of the week and Cory and I just couldn't gel our schedule, I realized, when I got the shot, it was like 10:45. At about 2:45, I realized I was feeling lightheaded all day, which wasn't unpleasant. It was like having 3 shots of tequila. But then that feeling began to dissipate. And I told my boss, I think I better go home before this gets bad, which is good because there was one person, unfortunately, was hauled away within 15 minutes of having a bad reaction. I don't know what happened to that person. But yeah, you get the shot and then you wait 15 minutes and then you can go. And somebody else at work was also having a strange reaction, and they had it the previous day, because I was actually talking to that person. They was like, yeah, I felt euphoric, but I came in, I was feeling pretty good. They weren't feeling good now. I stayed home today because when I woke up, I didn't feel like I got hit by a bus, but I felt like it was parked on top of me. And even a couple of times I'd be like, yeah, I think I'll get up and, oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to sit down again. So on top of that, part of the goof up, I decided just for the hell of it to have another ER trip. No, not because I like the people down there and they're really nice and young and good looking. No, I came up and I had a really weird jaw pain. I just finished eating and it got really severe. Clench your jaw. And you feel that goofy muscle? It was right about there. It went under the chin, started radiating up into my head, giving me a headache, and down into my neck. So I figured, you know what? I got to go talk to my doctor. 9 times out of 10, people don't do that, and then they end up dead the next day because of a heart attack. So I figured, I'd give them a call. Well, the person who took the call sent me to the nurse line. Nurse line listened to my symptoms, and because I am high risk, told me, we want you to go into the ER. Now, basically, Chris drove me down to the ER, and since you're not really allowed to hang around there and probably not a good idea to do that, she dropped me off. I went in. They were waiting for me. I got registered. I went in. They took all my information. I sat down. I got up. I gave blood. They put an IV in me, or they didn't actually give me an IV, but they put this blood thing in you so they can draw blood, add medicine, whatever. I should just leave it in with the amount of times I have to give blood with all my stuff. I did chest X-ray, I did an EEG, and then I sat. It was about an hour, and really that's not bad because that's how long it really takes all the blood work and the doctor look at everything. And I'm not stupid. I realized because I didn't get hauled in an ambulance like the last ER trip I did for the same reason. Matter of fact, that's what the nurse told me when I was calling at 4 in the morning. Yeah, you should probably go in an ambulance because you'll get treated with a little bit more urgency than if you just walk in. Of course, being unconscious, well, that's how you really get attention in an ER. And again, I knew that as I was sitting there just waiting for an hour. I was more worried that my phone would die because I didn't bring anything with me. I didn't bring a book. Whatever. I just figured I'd just sit and watch the phone. The sad part is as I was sitting there, there were 2 people that you really got to give kudos to the ER people, because the first person was, she got to wherever she was sitting. And again, you walk in and you sit here and then you sit here. They're putting you where they need you so they know where you are. At one point, the row I was sitting was there was nobody there. And so I walked up and talked to the lady and I said, am I sitting in the right spot? And what's your name? Yes, you are. They know you're there. They're just waiting for test results. Okay. Well, this person, wherever she ended up sitting, did not want to move. And she let the effing ward know it. And she know this and she wanted to know what. They were trying to very calmly explain, well, see, we want you to sit over here so we know that you've been registered. Well, I don't see why the effing cares. I can sit effing here and blah, blah, blah. And she bitched and moaned and bitched for about 10 friggin' minutes until finally they got her room ready. Whatever she's bitching about, she got to go into a room. And as she was walking by, well, she got to walk by with the 2 cops with them. Apparently, there's a reason why there are cops in emergency rooms to deal with people like her. And then the next idiot
Yep.
who went in, and all he wanted was his effing pot. Someone stole my effing bag. I need my effing pot. Well, sir, we need your name. Why can't I get my effing pot? And then he would calm down, and then he'd be yelling again because he needs his effing pot. And you guys think I'm a effing junkie, and I just need my. And he'd calm down again. He'd get louder again. Oh my God! When this guy walked by, I just had my baseball cap. I just pulled down and pretend I was asleep. Again, a cop walking with him. But throughout this all, the ER personnel remained so calm and so non-escalatory. I was utterly amazed. I mean, I get trained in this stuff at my job, but to see it practice in such a high level, and I went in finally to my room, hey now, and the doctor came in and said, hey, all your tests are fine. You probably want to go check with your dentist, see whatever it is, because the pain didn't go away. It was still there, but it was not heart related. Thank you. Knocking on wood sometimes pays off. But as I went out, I said, I have to compliment you people. You were so kind and so efficient. And when you were dealing with some of the, and we just kind of sighed, I said, you guys just remain calm. I mean, tell everybody thank you, and I'm utterly impressed with it. What a hell of a job these people did. And of course, they're so impossibly young.
Yeah,
either that or I'm
because
just
what
old.
it is, when you start in that business, they're going to give you the worst job because, hey, once you've got some seniority, you're like, I ain't fucking working there.
I'm not working in the ER. No way. I don't blame them. In case you're worried, what I ended up doing is I went into my doctor the next day, still had the same pain, and he checked it out, and he said, I think it's your salivatory gland, which again, clench your teeth, you feel that muscle? Well, right above there is just your gland that produces all your saliva. And then if you go run your finger under the jawbone, that's the second one. The first gland comes out somewhere in the upper area of where your molars are. The other one, the bottom one, comes out under your tongue. When they're blocked either by cysts or tiny stones, I didn't know they could get stones there, and they don't know why these develop. When you eat, your body's producing saliva, it backs up, it hurts. That was where my pain was coming from. What I did, drank a lot of water, put warm compress on it, took Tylenol, and sucked on sour candy because that produces the effect. I'm still a little sore today, but it wasn't enough to stop me from getting my vaccination going to work. So if you ever have that type pain, there you go. Now you know. I swear, this is like a subtitle. Not only are we dealing with every comic book ever published, but we're also dealing with medical issues like gallstones, heart attacks, rheumatoid arthritis. I swear, we are an inspirational national treasure. Cory, what are you freaking on?
First thing I'm freaking on, I mentioned it last time, DC, their $6 books, well, they've said that, they're cutting them back. And the rumor is that in the next solicitation, those $6 books are going to be dropping back down. But if they're going to be pushing that, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why you would do that. I don't know why you would take Batman from $3.99 to $6.99. Oh, and with the cardstock cover, it's $7.99. I'm sorry, it's $5.99 and $6.99. That just it reminds me when WWE kept jacking the prices of the pay-per-views because fewer people watched them, or that they didn't want people to buy paperback books anymore years ago. So they started jacking the price on those and keeping the price of the trade paperback the same. And I remember there was one point the new Stephen King paperback was $9.99. The trade paperback was $12.99. Why? Because they wanted people to quit buying the cheap paperbacks. They've always wanted to get people to quit buying the cheap paperbacks since reading levels started dropping in the 80s. And all they really did was first they drove people to digital books, and then they drove people to used bookstores. And now they're all mad about used bookstores. Kind of like, remember when Garth Brooks went on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno and cried because people were buying his CDs used? And it was ruining music. Garth Brooks can go jump off a cliff for all I care with that crap. Go away. Shut up. Shutting up. Let's see. I have been reading more comics. I picked up the first issue of Superman Red and Blue because it's an anthology. And much like the Wolverine Black, White, and Blood, and Harley Quinn, what is hers? Black, White, and Red as well. This is Superman Red and Blue, where red and blue are the only two colors. Oh, what a mess. This was a goddamn mess. The first two stories were just depressing as hell. And then the third story was a goofy Mixelplick story. Now, when I did college radio, we would, as a joke, every so often play Whiplash Wednesday, where we would play two songs that were so diametrically opposed. If you were listening to it, you would whip your head around so fast to go, what? You would get whiplash. This was the same feel where, after this second story about a mom who died of her heroin addiction and how Superman couldn't save her, the next one is, oh, Mixelplick stole all the colors. Everything's black and white. I'm not saying that every story in an anthology needs to have the same tone, but it's Joe, do you remember the Casey Kasem thing where they had him on audio talking about I can't come out of an up-tempo song to do a goddamn death dedication for a dog. That's how it felt. It felt like we were coming out of a death dedication for a dog into shiny, happy people holding hands. And I'm sorry, this one's on editorial. It's not on the creators. The creators said, well, here's our short story. It fits the theme. It fits the Superman Red and Blue. And the editor said, no, yeah, it doesn't matter what we put in as long as the page counts matter. As long as the page counts fit. It was hurtful. It was so bad, it was just hurtful. And it really got the book off on a bad foot to where I don't know if I want to get it anymore. And I like anthologies, and I like this limited color palette thing that they're doing in comics now. But if the editorial's going to be so bad at just throwing in random crap, not worrying about if they mesh or not, I'm not going to bother buying it. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Cory, did you watch Zack Snyder Justice League cut?
No. I don't have 52 hours.
No, you have 4. And what I find that argument stupid because you're willing to sit down and watch 8 hours of WandaVision or 8 hours of this or that.
I watched it.
You don't have to, again, you don't have to watch it in one sitting. It's 6 chapters. Watch a chapter, quit. Watch a chapter, quit. Just because you don't want to invest 4 hours in it. That's what I thought I was going to do, that I would sit down, okay, I'll just watch a couple chapters and go. I was compelled enough to watch all hours of it. And again, you're at home. You can pause. You don't have to worry about, I will talk when the Hulk is talking in the restaurant because that's the slow part of the movie so I can get back in time for the big-ass fight. Again, I don't understand, other than and I say this, Cory and I, our original dislike of Zack Snyder's take on Superman. Again, I went into this totally expecting to hate it. I absolutely loved it. This is the Justice League movie Warner should have given us that would have given them their Avenger franchise. Because there were things that would have branched off into the Ben Affleck Batman. It would have left you drooling, waiting for Superman 2 and 3. It would have led to a more coherent DC universe instead of the now well, we're kind of all going our own way, but we're not going to do New Gods because we're putting that aside, and there'll be multiple Batmans and blah, 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 whatever. So again, the other thing I heard is people, I don't like an R-rated one. Well, the sad little fact is if you take our comic books and you put them on the screen, they're R-rated because they're fucking violent. Remember back when X-Men Animated was put on, and even some episodes of Batman Animated? People were like, oh my God, these are violent. How can we let little Johnny watch it? It's like, well, we were talking like they kind of backed these off from the fights we saw in the comic book, but they're really the closest thing we got. Yeah, in static images, we can accept the violence, but when you put them in motion, you're like, oh my God, these are really violent. Anyways, second, think your thoughts on that, Corey. I enjoyed it thoroughly. You don't have to give yourself 4 hours to watch it. Just watch it and whatever. And again, with the other thing that was nice about it is had it been Justice League, the show, you'd appreciate the slow parts when they're like, okay, this is more about not Cyborg, his backstory. Here's more about the Flash, his backstory. We don't need Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. We got their backstories, but they kind of flesh out these characters more so than they were in the original cut. And then when you get to the final scenes, I'm sad we will never see a Justice League 2. And that's weird because you can go back in the podcast, and I'll give a Joe prize if anybody wants to dig them out, where Cory and I were talking about this Justice League sucks because we don't like Zack Snyder's take on Superman. So
yeah, no, hold on, it's more than that. I don't like his take on storytelling. I don't like his take on nihilism. I don't like his take on heroics. His movies are dark, not just visually, thematically, character-wise. And if you like it, I am so happy that you got this movie. I really am. I think it's great that you got this movie that you wanted. I love a director's cut. If you let me, I will go on and on about director's cut. How the director's cut, the original cut of Heaven's Gate, one of the most notorious bombs ever. But if you watch that original director's cut, the 4-hour version of it, it's beautiful. Or the director's cut of Once Upon a Time in America. The American version was incomprehensible. You watch the original director's cut, one of the best movies ever made. I am glad you got that. But at this point in my life, in a pandemic, I need light.
You should watch this movie. You should watch this movie. If you want happiness, watch a comedy. But this is the Justice League movie we deserved. And you are doing yourself a disservice, not only as a comic book fan, but as a podcaster who should be reviewing this shit by avoiding it. Not saying you don't have to. I know plenty of idiots who just, for whatever reason, take real pleasure in that they've never watched Star Wars. I know people that, for whatever reason, don't like Harry Potter, even though from what I know of them, they would probably like the books. I'm not talking about J.K. Rowling going batshit crazy on trans people. I'm just talking the books. It's there. I don't know how long it's going to stay. This should be on HBO Max forever because it's only
not
available
going away because it's
so,
not a theatrical.
Give it a try when you're feeling better because I absolutely enjoyed it. This is akin to anything I've ever read in Justice League in my life. Well, except Justice League International. That was a whole different ballgame, which was brilliant. So again,
they make a movie of that. I'm their first day.
Oh God, that would be fun. But anyways, and I'll say this over and over. You know, I'm sure when Butch, I don't know if Butch can watch it because it's on HBO Max, but definitely when you feel the need and you get off your anti-Zack Snyder movie kick, give it a shot. Don't look at it like, oh my God, it's a 4-hour movie. Look at it like, okay, 6 episodes of Justice League. You may get to the end of it and say, I didn't care for it, which I can respect more than I didn't watch it. But how about Godzilla vs. Kong?
I have not seen it yet, so don't tell me who
Oh,
won, but I think I already know who should win
absolutely,
because
absolutely brilliant.
because nature has shown, history shows again and again how nature points out the folly of men.
You're wrong. So wrong. Absolutely wrong.
No.
Wrong. Wrong.
Blue
I
Oyster
watched
Cult
it.
told us.
Wrong. I watched it. Wrong. That's all I'm going to say. I will say it was fantastic. A little weak on the ending. I mean, I could have. It's one of those things where when it ends, you're kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of an ending. And I don't think they have plans, at least not yet, to go beyond it because it ends like the Avenger movie end. Okay, we're going to watch the ending credits. Oh, there's nothing there. But man, I enjoyed this thing. We got together last night, watched it at home, mainly because some of us haven't been vaccinated, or some of us who just had weren't really in a let's go to a theater mood. My daughter's boyfriend brought a sound bar in. We cranked it up. It was fun. Awesome fight. Again, and then afterwards, I watched the original Godzilla, which was fun because it was the original Godzilla. It was not shoo-in Raymond Burr Godzilla. So again, I won't talk. We'll talk more about this when you see it, Cory, because I enjoyed it. I don't know if you're planning to do the theater on it. No. I enjoyed it at home. Yeah, I mean, once we got rocking on it, and again, another nice thing is we had a couple pauses in the humans are talking parts where everybody took bathroom breaks, and that's kind of what I enjoyed. If I thought everybody, if Chris had her shot and we were feeling it, we might have gone down to the Marcus Theater because they have the lounger seats where Chris and I could sit here, nobody next to us, so on and so on. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I haven't really read much because, again, going to the ER, I didn't even plan that far ahead. And I thought about it because I always think about your go-to bag. And I had a couple books, but I was like, no, I'll just go in. And I had everything ready to go, but like I said, I was playing the games and I'm reading Facebook and doing whatever on my phone. The battery drained, and eventually I just like, okay, I got to stop because, eventually I'm going to have to call Chris and have her come get me. I got Spawn number 10 in the mail, Cory.
Ooh, the new Dave Sim version.
Yeah. It's 4 different copies. This comes from Waverly Press. So I'm assuming if you go to Waverly Press, you should be able to get some stuff. I ordered all 4 versions. I can't tell is that all I got? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And I haven't opened them yet, but I did inspect them and make sure to see how they're doing. That is pretty much all I'm geeking on, Cory. What you geeking on?
DC, they haven't announced it, but there's a book catalog from Hachette that has lists of stuff.
Who are you going to tell her?
What? Oh, what? I can't tell her. Nothing, hon. I just said we are heading up north, right? Next weekend?
You're staying here.
Oh, okay, good. We can podcast.
What, Cory? What you geeking on?
DC hasn't made these announcements yet, but they're in the Hachette book catalog that we talked about earlier in this episode. And DC, many of the Omnis that they canceled, they are resoliciting, including Batgirl of Burnside. So I'm excited that they are putting some of these Omnis back on the schedule. Now, does this mean that they will come out? Oh, heavens no. And will they pre-print it correctly? Oh, heavens!
Oh, heavens, no!
As one person I know at DC said, well, nobody's in charge over there, so they're lucky anything gets printed. Also, Tom Brevoort has started a YouTube channel, and on this YouTube channel, he talks about obscure Marvel history, just like he does on his blog. And one of the things he did recently on the blog that I absolutely adored, he had a copy of Stan Lee's Secrets of the Comics, which was a book that Stan Lee wrote in 1948 about how to break into comics. And he sold it. He published it himself. He didn't publish it through Timely. Published it himself, but he was able to put ads in the Timely books for it. And Tom has a digital copy of it and actually goes through and points out stuff. I like where he says, yeah, this is hyperbole. This was the last year Marvel did this. This is this artist, this is this artist, this is this artist, stuff like that, where he kind of puts it all in historical context, which I loved. And I don't want to re-ignore the controversy, but if you are one of those people who has a dog in the Stan versus Jack Kirby fight that seems to be online constantly,
Forever.
This shows how Stan said this is what an editor does. And in it, he sits down with the writer and the artist, they flesh out the story, boom, 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 and he talks about the assembly line nature of it all. And it really goes to how comics were created, because a lot of people who talk about comics now have no clue how they were made in the 50s and 60s. And Dave Sim announced something. Not just the Spawn number 10, but when he was doing Glamour Puss, in the back and slowly taking over was a thing he was drawing in a realistic style before his hand could no longer draw, called The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. Alex Raymond, who was the guy who drew Flash Gordon and Secret Agent X9, and passed away. And Sim was using that realistic Alex Raymond art style to tell the story, and it's the whole life of Alex Raymond, but it's called The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. And when he could no longer do it, there was another artist who said that they would finish it if Dave gave him all the notes and kind of the scripting. And they tried kickstarting it, and they tried a few other ways to get it printed, and it kept falling apart till Dave said, yeah, it's just never going to get done. It's going to be in the IDW catalog within the next 2 months. Should be coming out. And I am excited because I know so little about Alex Raymond other than the Flash Gordon stuff he did. Comic-wise, I read the new Man-Thing. They are doing a 3-part Man-Thing story as part of his 50th anniversary. It's by Steve Orlando, who's done work for Ahoy and Vertigo and DC, but never Marvel. This is his first Marvel book. And it really is a good Man-Thing story. The first issue is Avengers Man-Thing, and then it's going to be some other character than Man-Thing, and it's a 3-part miniseries. They are extra size. I think they're 48 pages. First issue was really good. Really enjoyed it a lot. And I am a very picky Man-Thing fan. You can make your own jokes from there. And the other comic that I read that I really enjoyed is a character that I like, and it's really weird how Marvel just kind of created her. She was big, but then they didn't know what to do with her. And that's Silk, who was the Korean girl who was bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker, except she was put into seclusion for a decade while he was out being Spider-Man, and she got freed during Original Sin because, well, we got to have something in everybody's background, and why not do this? And it's a character that I liked a lot. I liked the origin. They made it believable. They made it fit. I like the fact that because the radioactive spider kind of changed their genetics, Spider-Man and Silk are just drawn to each other like magnets without, even if they don't want to. So they have moved her aside. And the great thing is, if you think about what they've done with Miles Morales as Spider-Man and now Silk, in this first issue of the miniseries, they set her up in her new life. She, remember when she came out of the being locked up, she didn't know where her family was. They have resolved that issue in other stories. So she has moved in with their brother, and she has a job working for J. Jonah Jameson's website. So you've got Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man, doing the teenage angst going to school thing. They have Silk doing the working for the newspaper with J. Jonah Jameson thing. And with Peter Parker, they're kind of doing their own thing with him. So you've got all of those things that people like about Spider-Man, But because Peter Parker's grown up, they've moved them on to other characters. And in that first issue, they really create a great supporting cast of people who are working for J. Jonah Jameson on his website. In Amazing Spider-Man, because Peter Parker's roommates with Robbie Robertson's kid, we're getting interaction with him and Robbie Robertson and J. Jonah Jameson interacting with all of them. And Miles Morales has set up his own superhero teenage angst stuff that I really like. So all in all, I like the Spider-Man books right now. And while people could say there are too many, I mean, if it works, it works. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about comic books for an hour and a half.
You really need to get a life.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Cory, there's a perk of being my friend. You'll be the normal one.
Oh,
I feel like dancing. Hit my music.
And before we go, I want to do one last tribute to Blade Braxton. Joe, you're going to know what you need to say when I say it. Joe, Blade Braxton's dead.
Dead? I didn't even know he was sick.
Thanks for that joke, Blade, and thanks for the years. Good night.